And how do I know it's a problem? Like my first question I always ask people when they come to me for one-to-one work is like, why now? Why are you like, something compelled you to contact me? Why out of all other opportunities or times or, whatever days, this was the time that you're like, I want to talk to someone. What's going on? Hi, Andy.
Hello, Julia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Whereabouts are you based?
I'm in Vancouver. Where are you?
Sydney, Australia. So I know the time
Oh,
zone, it
cool.
must be late over there. Thank you for doing
Yeah,
this.
it's like early in the day there, hey?
Yeah, it's currently 1 p.m.
Okay.
So not
Okay,
too
yeah,
bad, yeah.
it's 6 here. I'm just trying to, if I reduce the size, you sometimes use my computer screen as my light.
Yes, I do that at night. Like
I just
when
have
I'm
to
filming a
reduce
video
the
at
size.
night and then my monitor goes to sleep, all of a sudden the lighting on the camera, like it's not as good. I was like, wow, like the lighting from the screen actually makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. Isn't that funny? I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, it's really good lighting from my computer screen.
yeah. All right. I guess we can jump straight into it. It's like a pretty natural sort of podcast, but please, Julia, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Please tell me and the audience a bit about yourself and a bit about your story.
In what capacity? I'm so curious about that.
Awesome. So for context, I think me and our team, we came across a YouTube channel and we saw about all your content on sort of mindfulness, how to sort of have a more positive life. And that really, intrigued me. I think over the last 2 years, I went through this whole journey of trying to find happiness, trying to figure out what I really enjoy, just trying to figure myself out. And I really resonated with your content on that topic.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, it's always been in who I am to be a seeker and to really like truly seeking happiness and joy and fulfillment, not in like a superficial way, but like in a deep, meaningful way. How do I make my time on this planet intentionally what I want it to be, including how I want to be feeling? And so that was a lot of the motivation for, I think, becoming a counselor without even consciously being aware of it at the time, is I wanted to help other people, but also wanted to help myself. And I wanted to figure myself out. And I wanted to help other people figure themselves out so that we could be, contributing and getting the most out of our lives as possible. So, contributing to life and also receiving from life what the potential is there. And that sort of guides my practices, and that guides my the things that I take on, and the decisions that I make, and how I kind of think about things and how I go about things. That's sort of like my guiding principle with that is how do I create and continue to create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling for me.
How long ago did you start on this journey of seeking answers?
Think it's always been kind of part of me. I've always like, yeah, I just remember even being a teenager and just really wanting to understand people more deeply. I mean, not the best at like, a house party to be like, so, tell me about your relationship with your parents. How is that for you? Or just really wanting to understand like what's really going on with people and seeing people a little bit more deeply, and seeing kind of the kids that were quote unquote like the bad kids, and being like, man, like I wonder what's going on at home for them, or it seems like they're kind of struggling with some stuff. I wonder, where that's coming from. And I always just wondered, I guess that was always it. I always had this curiosity and compassion to be like, if this person is doing this or acting this way or treating people this way, there's a reason. And it's not because the person sucks, because I don't think most people suck, or at least are trying to suck. There's just something going on there. And so I always just wanted to understand that. And then as I got a little bit more emotionally mature, or just like, more self-reflective, I really wanted to understand myself better and why I was struggling with things like anxiety and like just really not liking myself, really struggling with my self-esteem, really feeling very self-conscious, very ashamed of myself and my body, and really just wanting to unpack that and be like, what is going on there? And then now like turning that career into helping other people do the same.
And then as like a consultant, what's the main ways you've sort of helped people? Is it, do you sort of read people? Do you sort of do like sort of therapeutic sort of conversations? Do you sort of dig into their story and find the root causes of their problems? Do you sort of offer solutions? Is it a bit of everything?
The answer is yes to all of that. Really looking at the whole person, and there's 4 dimensions of the self that we want to consider when we're truly starting to understand what makes people tick. And it's the biological, right? Like, just talking about your health, your physical health, and, like what you're dealing with your body on a physical level. It's the psychological. So like what's going on with your psyche and your thoughts and, like your emotions and all of that stuff. And then it's the social, right? Like where are you at as far as how connected you are to other people, to your community, who's important to you, what's important to you, and then the spiritual. So I guess that would fall more under like what's important to you. What are your values? What are your sort of guiding principles of life? What do you see as your meaning or purpose in life? And sort of looking at that from like a more spiritual perspective. And so really trying to seek to understand all dimensions of the self and figuring out, where do we want to go from there? Where do we feel like there's some room for movement here? Where do we feel like, this part is really like all of these things impact our well-being. So where might we be neglecting some of this stuff? And for some people, it's like, oh crap, I'm neglecting all of it. And then you're like, okay, well now it makes sense why you've been struggling. And so instead of, blaming yourself and being like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, being able to say, no, there's just some things that are not working with how you have been living, right? It's not you. There's not something fundamentally flawed about you as a person, right? Like if you are feeling lonely and isolated and that's leading to like big feelings of like disconnection and depression, that doesn't mean there's something fundamentally wrong with you. It means that, you haven't really been investing and involving yourself in building those deep connections and staying invested and involved. And we have to look at why, like what's going on. Is there fear there, right? Is there fear around vulnerability? Is there fear of abandonment? Is there fear of rejection? Right? Is it hard to like deal with getting close to people because then inevitably there's like conflict, and is conflict something that you find really disturbing or unsettling, and because you grew up with high conflict or with everything being swept under the rug, so you don't know what to do with that, right? So we're just really looking at what's not working, and it's not you that's not working. You're not broken. What's not working in how you are living your life, and why.
And Julia, as a person that, you have like a high level of empathy, a high level of like just kindness and caringness, have you found that it's hard for you to find people that are similar to you, and it's hard for you to build and grow your circle, and because you want people who are as equally as kind as you, as equally as empathetic as you, and it's sort of hard to find people that can match your level. Is that a difficulty you've gone through?
No. It really hasn't. And I think that, it's very interesting. Like I attract people that are very similar to me in a lot of ways. I think most humans crave connection. We just have developed walls around that for our own self-protection. And as soon as we start to be able to take down those walls, I think most humans crave connection, want to invest in relationship, care about other people. I just think a lot of times that's been sort of we've had difficult experiences that have sort of chased that stuff to the side for our own self-protection. Right. And as someone in my membership community, so I have a membership community where people come, they pay a monthly fee, and then they get teachings and trainings in the community. And someone posted in the group the other day and just said, I would be fine if I never had to talk to or spend time with another human. Right. And the inkling would, for someone to be like, well, that sounds like a really like heartless or like mean or, like unkind thing to say. Like, wow, you seem like a real winner, or you kind of sound like a jerk or whatever. But my question is, what happened? Because that is a statement that's coming from pain. So what happened that created pain that you ultimately want to avoid pain because you've had something has happened in a relationship, or maybe you've had a few interactions that have been painful or off-putting or hurtful. And so now you feel like the way to sort of prevent myself from being hurt is to avoid, people altogether. So the question is always why? Like, why is this coming up? Why is this happening? What happened? And it's actually really interesting because this is why this book has been resonating so deeply with me. I'm currently reading a book called What Happened to You by like a world-renowned psychiatrist named Dr. Bruce Perry, who has dedicated his life to studying trauma, adverse childhood experience, behavior as a result of, repressed pain and trauma, and just really like, really asking that question, why? Why is that happening? What's going on there? Why is that coming up for you? Why are you feeling that way? Why did you take that personally? What's feeling stressful about this? What made you feel so anxious about this circumstance? What's going on there? Right. And I guess that's what therapy is. It's a process of discovery and understanding, and then creating those insights and that understanding, and then working on shifting, right? Working on shifting how we see things, how we take things in, how we approach things, right? And like working on not taking things so personally, which comes down to working on, building a more solid sense of self, working on not getting so anxious about things, which comes down to ultimately working on trusting ourselves more, right? Working on feeling less like angry or resentful, which really comes down to tapping into hurt and vulnerability and being able to process through that. And this is it, we're looking at like what's been happening here and why are these behaviors happening? Why are these patterns happening? And what are we going to start doing to start shifting out of that into something that's going to work better for you and your ultimate life goals, which are, I'm guessing for most humans, I know for most humans, to feel more connected to self, more peace within self, more happy within self, and more connected to others, more secure and safe, and feeling the safety to be authentic and vulnerable with others, to feel a sense of love and belonging, to feel like we have significance, to feel good about who we are and our contributions to the world and to life. So how can we create that? By getting rid of the things that have been getting in the way.
Interesting. As you were bringing that up, I was trying to think of like the things I've been probably struggling with over the last few months. And I guess the main things that popped in my mind is sort of my constant crave for dopamine. Me constantly procrastinating. Like today I had a difficult task, so I had to like script out this whole video of something I filmed over the weekend. It was just a bit difficult because I had so many different footages and I just did not want to do it. And then I sort of had to push myself through to do it. Or last night where I was just exhausted by the end of the day and I knew the right thing was to sleep early, but I sort of just got sucked into TikTok and I was just scrolling through my feed. Does that and also like another thing, I want to increase my work capacity. Like I know that if I work, 8 straight hours, 2, 3 days in a row, it's like focus hours. By the fourth day, I'd be pretty burnt out just because I think I need work on my work capacity. All those things, is there a link to psychological trauma or problems or root causes, or was it more physical?
I mean, Andy, that is such a good question, because sometimes we just need to, I mean, we don't need to overthink things so much. I think sometimes we do get in this pattern of like overthinking, but the long and short of it is that human nature is about drawing us towards pleasure and away from pain. And it's delightful to sit and scroll and laugh and be entertained. It feels good. It's not weird. It doesn't have to necessarily be this like, oh, I have to read into this and understand my deeper psychological trauma that's leading me to, want to, numb out on TikTok. It's like, no, I'm exhausted. I've worked hard all day and I just want a few dopamine hits. I want to feel good. I want to be entertained. I want to laugh. I want to be distracted. I mean, that we don't have to get so into it. Now, where it can become problematic is when we are so checked out to it that we start to notice that we don't even actually feel better after we're doing it. So like half an hour of fiddling around on social media, for most of us, depending on who you're following and being very specific about who you follow, I tend to follow people who I learn from or who I laugh from. Right. Although I have been following some kind of like mom bloggers who've been focusing more on like beauty and on like skincare. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I have been spending way too much money on moisturizers lately. I am being influenced. But yeah, like, I mean, it's entertaining and it's enjoyable to check out for half an hour and do that. But if it's turning into like 2 hours and it's making it so that I'm, only getting 4 hours of sleep and I'm feeling like, out of sorts the next day, or I'm feeling exhausted. And then it's like, okay, this is actually not serving this purpose of making me feel good. The larger picture is that it's contributing to me feeling worse. And so that's where conscious thought comes in and says, okay, I want to be feeling good, so I need to be making conscious choices in alignment with that. And if I'm not, I know what's good for me and I'm not doing it, then I have to get curious as to why. But we got to be careful that we're not overanalyzing spending half an hour scrolling social media, because that probably makes sense at the end of a long day. You just want to check out and be entertained. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing something that kind of feels good in like smaller amounts, but then ends up becoming like addictive or compelling, or like creates bigger problem. It's like for most people, 1 or 2 drinks is fine. 6 or 7 drinks, several nights in a row, or, like on a regular basis, that starts to become harmful, right? That starts to become detrimental for most people. I mean, I'm not Irish. I don't have a very, a big tolerance, but like, really just looking at where does this behavior, and there's that fine line between this behavior being pleasurable to being destructive. And that's where we have to kind of start to get curious. Is this crossing the line into destructive? And if it is getting into destructive, why am I continuing it on? Not as a rhetorical question, but an actual question. Why am I doing this? Why am I continuing on like this? What am I, what am I trying to avoid? Or why am I not taking better care of myself? And understanding and knowing that, especially with social media, it is designed to be addictive, right? It is designed to suck you in and keep you there. And so instead of blaming yourself, being like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why am I like frittering away all this time? Really getting that like there are thousands of people, millions of dollars, if not more, that is going in to figuring out the human psyche and how to get us stuck in this, right? So there's a lot of pieces, and which is often the case. There's a lot of pieces at play. But at the end of the day, it's really just about getting curious and asking ourselves, what do I want? And being reasonable with it. If you're like, I want to build a multi-million-dollar business in 3 months, and that's going to mean that I have to like work day and night, all day, every day, and like push myself to my absolute limit or beyond. is, that might be what you quote unquote want, but is that what's going to be in your best interest?
That's
And so,
beautiful.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's the question, is that, that's my little like hack for people to ask themselves, instead of saying, what do I want? Or what would be, what would feel good right now? And just asking ourselves consciously, what is in my best interest?
That's awesome. Julia, as a consultant, what are you sort of most passionate about, or what do you find is your strongest strength? Is it the ability to listen to people, the ability to quickly sort of piece out their deep-rooted sort of problems and uncover that? Maybe it's just a lot of you have a lot of theory and you sort of know sort of solutions to a lot of problems. What's your sort of your main passions and strengths as a consultant in that sort of mindfulness space?
Hmm. I would say taking an issue that someone is dealing with and being able to break it down into typically what's really going on under the surface, and then giving them some tools to be able to deal with the stuff under the surface, to make the, like, not just trimming the branches, but actually, taking care of the roots, right? Like really getting in there and seeing where the roots are being attacked.
And then does this apply to like everyone? Does everyone have issues, or are there people that are quite okay and there's no need for that? Or can this be applied to everyone?
I think everyone has issues, but there are some people with personalities that they're just like, they're not quite as bothered by their issues.
Mm,
Right? Like some people kind of just go through life being relatively okay. It doesn't mean that their lives are perfect, but like things just don't impact them as much. But then there's those of us who tend to be more highly sensitive people, who things do impact us more deeply. There's no right or wrong, and there's no point in judging ourselves for how we take in the world. It's just really working to understand that and work with ourselves instead of against ourselves. And
Interesting.
yeah, there are some people who just like things roll off of them a little more easily. And then, the other end of the spectrum is like someone looks at you sideways and you're like obsessing about it 4 days later.
Is there like a question you could ask, for example, let's say, is there a question you could ask someone like me to help identify what potentially might be an issue? Like, are there broad questions that you sort of start with when you sort of talk to clients that are not too sure what their sort of bottlenecks are?
Yeah. And you know what, Andy, that's a really good question, because what they've shown in more current research within therapy is we don't have to go looking for problems, right? You don't have to go looking for something to fix if it doesn't feel broken. And so really just looking at like, what do I say is a problem? And how do I know it's a problem? Like my first question I always ask people when they come to me for one-to-one work is like, why now? Why are you like, something compelled you to contact me? Why, out of all other opportunities or times or, whatever days, this was the time that you're like, I want to talk to someone. What's going on? And then people always have an answer. Well, I've just been noticing this happening more, or I've been noticing myself feeling this more. I've been noticing myself feeling this less. And I want to know, I want to feel better. But if you're feeling pretty okay and you're going through life and things seem to be going well, and relatively well, things, there's some ups and downs, but you don't seem to be slayed by them. You seem to be doing all right. You seem to be moving towards your goals, and like you seem to be relatively fulfilled in life. Like, don't look for a problem. Count yourself blessed.
For the last 2 years, from like maybe 21 to 22, I sort of went on this 2 year sort of hiatus where I was sort of trying a bunch of things. I was trying different routines. I was meditating. I was waking up whenever I wanted. I was traveling. I was trying to figure myself out, trying to find out what I was really passionate about. And prior to that, I sort of went through like a year of just grinding head down, getting work done, and I was able to build the company back up after coming back from America. And man, the last 2 years, it was just a bunch of ups and downs, and the peaks were so awesome, and the downs were so like, I was so lost. And after 2 years, I was sort of a bit sick of it, and I just whipped myself back into routine. And over the last, 2 months, I've been waking up the same time every day. I've been meditating every day, doing the Wim Hof breathing every day. I've been trying to consume less social media content. I've been reading every night. And I'm like probably 50 days in, and I feel pretty good. Like I feel steady. I'm not getting the same highs and I'm not getting the same lows, and I feel steady. I can't say like I feel like I'm over the moon and I'm happy about life and I'm super energetic. Like yesterday, I spent the day at the beach and we watched the sunset. That was pretty nice, but I feel steady at the moment.
Okay. And is that how you want to be feeling?
I think this steady is better than the ups and downs. Now, obviously, what would be even better than being steady is being steady, but even at a higher state, being just steadily happy all the time. But that might not be realistic.
Well, I mean, and I don't know who's to say what's realistic or not realistic, but then just asking yourself, like, maybe what would it take for that? You know, like, what would it take to just be a little bit happier? What could I be investing in or involving myself in? Because I know I have the capacity to feel like a little up from here. What would that take?
And I guess the answer would be sort of what I sort of remember the peaks would be. It would be like traveling more, sort of having a fluid routine, doing the podcast full time, talking to interesting people, and sort of just doing a bunch of things that doesn't make me money, if not spends money.
Okay. So you want to be doing more things that don't necessarily make you money, but give you more fulfillment?
Those things make me more happy and I enjoy it and I'm sort of more present and I'm more like, this is fun. It's not tiring.
Do that. It's not just, I mean, and that's sort of the myth in, post-industrial capitalistic culture is that it's all about making more money. And I'm going to be honest, like I've started doing, I never have really before, but I just sort of went with it now because it seemed right and it felt right. I've started doing more reels on Instagram. And I've not been doing them necessarily how everyone else is doing. I'm doing them in a way that makes sense for me, that feels easy for me, and that I enjoy. I don't think this is going to explode my business in any way, but I really like doing them. I like connecting with people in this way. I like sharing information in these little sound bites. I like helping people in these little sound bites, and I'm enjoying it. Like I'm actually really enjoying it. And so I'm going to keep doing it.
Interesting. And are there aspects of your life that you don't enjoy? Let's say accounting, grocery shopping, replying to a bunch of emails, having a day where you have 8 consultations and the last three you're just exhausted and you're pushing through them. And by the end of the day, you're like, whoa, I'm just like gassed and I feel really tired right now. Are there like things?
Okay. Honestly, like I have an incredible assistant. And I try not to force myself to do things that I don't enjoy doing unless I have to do them. So I used to like cooking more. Good. I felt like I had more time and space for it, but I don't feel like I have that now. So I don't force myself to make, 3-course gourmet meals for my family every night. Sometimes our dinner is going to be like, pre-made dumplings in some chicken broth with some, peas. For nutrition. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to choose to make myself feel inadequate or guilty about that because I just didn't I didn't want to spend an hour preparing a meal or even half an hour. And I didn't want that extra pressure. I didn't want that extra stress, and that's okay. Right. And so just really looking at, there's things that we kind of tell ourselves that we have to do, but it's sort of just this made up have to. It's not a real have to. Right. And like really looking at your life and how many things do you tell yourself you have to do? I have to take this call, I have to get all these things done. I have to, have the house look like this. I don't know, like whatever it is, like just telling yourself like I have to do these things, and how many of those things are actual have tos. So one of the things in my business that I don't love doing, at this point, I don't love copywriting and I don't love copy editing, but I have to do it if I want my business to stay profitable. I have to, I have to write emails to my email list, and I have to edit emails. I like writing. I like just writing like stream of conscious, and I really enjoy that, but I don't always like having to like tweak it and refine it and make sure that it's coherent and makes sense and is going to really connect with people. I don't love that part of it. But I also know that this is an essential part of my business and about connecting with my audience and about like, kind of staying in that relationship with them. That's a huge part of it. And so it's something I do. I really like the feedback that I get from people when they write back and say, hey, your email really connected with me, or hey, I'm really excited about this workshop you're going to be giving. Thanks for letting me know, right? I really like the result of that. I really like it when, people take me up on the offers that I present in some of those emails. I really like seeing the success of that. And so, sometimes again, we don't ask ourselves, it's not always what do I feel like doing or what do I want to do? It's what's going to be in my best interest. And I want the result that comes from this action that I may not love doing, but I really love the result.
And then what do you think is your feeling as you're sort of doing that? Like I'm trying to think, like if I'm sort of doing accounting, I'm not really enjoying it. I'm sort of pushing myself through it. It sort of feels like a workout. It's like you're sort of lifting some weights or you're running. It feels painful. You're not feeling happy. You're not getting dopamine, but you sort of know this is the right thing and you always feel better afterwards. Is that a similar feeling you feel?
Totally. Like even last night I was editing out an email, and I was like reading over it like so many times. I go over it like 4 or 5 times, reading it out loud, really trying to like tweak it. And I'm like, oh, this is such a long and, kind of painful process, to be honest with you. I don't love copy editing. But then after it was done, I was like, okay, that's good. I did it. It's finished. I feel so good now.
Now, one thing I realized, I was trying to look back at that, what catalyzed that 2 year of me just breaking up and then going crazy, not crazy, but really just breaking off routine, was that feeling that you're talking about doing the copywriting. I was feeling that every single day. Every day there were things that I would do because I had to, because it would grow the business. But after 1,000 days of doing it, let's say after doing 1,000 videos on e-commerce and marketing, at some point, like the last 200 videos, I was already bored of doing that same topic, but I kept doing it because I knew that's sort of what people wanted to learn and listen to. But by the 1,000th video, I was like, man, there should be more to life than doing something that is painful to grow my company to make more money.
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, Andy, because like, what do you want more? Do you want the success, or do you want the fulfillment in the process? And I'm not saying you can't have both, but sometimes you have to choose, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this again because this is what my audience wants, and this is what people respond to, and this is what pays the bills. But you might also be like, you know what? I don't want to talk about this so much. I want to talk about this other topic. Like, I want to talk about like, mung beetles, right? You're like, that's what I want to talk about. I'm super passionate about that. And it might not be the thing that pays the bills, but it's the thing that brings me joy. If that is the case, that's great. There still needs to be some things that you need to do to pay the bills. Or maybe, like for me, honestly, I had to make that decision early on. People are always saying, like, why don't you teach other therapists how to grow a successful business? You could be so successful at that because you've built such a successful business. And I was like, I could. And I'd probably make a lot of money doing that. But I don't want to. I would rather be less kind of like financially compensated teaching something that I love. And so I sort of, and I do that often in my business. I'll see things. I'm like, you know what? This would probably generate more income, but I don't want to do it.
And then Julia, are you sort of pushing through with the copywriting and the copy editing every single day, knowing that eventually you'll get to a point where you could outsource that part because you don't enjoy it? Or do you foresee yourself doing that every single week for your life?
So I work with my assistant now, and she does a lot of the writing now. She's taken over a lot of that, and I edit it out. Like I heavily edit it so it sounds like me. And so I feel like my like flavor is in there. because I think people like that's part of my connection with people is through that writing. And so it has to be from me. It's not something that I ever will outsource in that way fully, because I have to have my hands in that, because it's me, it's from me. And that's what people are connecting with. Because so much of my brand and my product is me, right? It's not like the Gap where I'm like selling cute t-shirts that anyone could like talk about how great they are and sell them, right? It's really like what I'm teaching, or like what I'm promoting is my teaching and my tools and, you know, my way of doing things. And that's what people want to be connected with. And it's what I really enjoy about being connected with people, because I feel like this deep sense of connection with my audience and with my online community, because it is more personal. And that's what I find really rewarding.
Julia, what's the difference between a person who wakes up early, goes on that painful morning run, and they've done that for 100th day, and on the 100th day they're like, "This is painful. Life is short. I want to. I'm going to stop doing this," versus that same person or another person that did it for 10,000 days. It's even 9,000 day in. It still sucks. It's still painful. They still don't like it, but they're still doing it no matter what. What are the differences between those two people?
What are the results that they're getting from it? And do they value those results?
Mm.
So the
So I
person,
work out every day, without fail. And I do it every day because I want the results that come from it. And I can't get those results any other way.
Now, for the person that does it for the first 30 days of the new year and then they break and they stop, it's like a new year resolution. If they were your client, how do you sort of get them to have a higher respect and want the result more so that they keep doing that?
Do less. Start smaller. Build a pattern where it would almost feel easier to do it than to try to talk yourself out of it. So if you want to like feel more healthy and energetic, instead of telling yourself you have to do 5 45-minute HIIT workouts a week, start with a 5-minute YouTube video dance party in your kitchen once a day. Put on your favorite music video. Try to shake it like Beyonce for 5 minutes. Move your body, feel the music, have some fun, and let that be good. Right? It's something I teach in my membership community. It's called the minimal committable. What is the minimum amount that you can commit to help you work towards your goal or create a new habit or pattern that would feel doable and sustainable? It's not go big or go home. It's go small to moderate and make it doable and sustainable. So people are like, well, I could do 30 minutes a day. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't go from 0 to 30 and make that sustainable. It's too different. But could you do 5 minutes? So like 5 minutes would feel too little. Then yes, that's the amount. It's got to feel like you're like, oh, that would hardly be worth it. But it absolutely is worth it, because the difference between something and nothing is everything, right? There's not a difference between the people who do everything and the people who do something. Those people are all in the same category. Those are all people that are taking strides, that are taking action. The difference is between the people that do nothing and the people that do something.
And then Julia, your daily workout routine, have you kept it at a level where it's like easy for you to do every day, or is it like...
Yeah, it's just a non-negotiable. I just don't give myself the mental drama to talk myself out of it. Like I just don't do the mental drama. I'm like, I'm moving my body for a minimum of 40 minutes today. And I can decide what that looks like. And it's going to happen. And I've done workouts at 11 o'clock at night because I haven't had a chance before that. But I'm like, that's fine, because I want the result that comes with it. And so that's just a choice that I've made. And as soon as I give myself space to talk myself out of these things that are really important to me, I will take it, because that's just what human brains do. It's easier not to do it than to do it, right? It's easier to be comfortable and conserve that energy and to like, binge watch another Netflix show than it is to like pull out the iPad and the weights and get to work. But I know that I'm going to feel better if I do the latter. I know that it's going to be better for me to do the latter. And I've actually learned how to really enjoy it. Sometimes I listen to my workout playlist. Sometimes I put on, the other day I did a share playlist and listened to share the whole time. Sometimes I listen to a podcast. Sometimes I listen to an audiobook. Sometimes I call and chat with a friend and put my headset on and have an out of breath chat with a friend while I'm working out. But the workout gets done.
Just like how the person goes from 5 minutes to 30 minutes every day, do you see yourself going from 40 to 60 minutes every day in the next 20 years? Or is there a limit and you found out, okay, 40 is the sweet spot?
I'm really good. I don't need to grow that. This is about just sort of maintaining my mental health, my physical health, staying strong, being able to run after my kids, being able to like my body keeping up with my ambition, right? I want to like be able to climb up the rope tower with my kids. I want to be able to, do cartwheels in the playground with them. Like I want my body to keep up with my ambition. And so this is what it takes. And this isn't about pushing or growing. This is about just sort of investing. It's investing.
Talking about family balance, how have you been able to sort of balance that? Like, do you find yourself, or is this a problem where you have a full day of work, you're sort of emotionally and mentally exhausted, now you're at the dinner table and you're sort of like a shell of yourself and you're not as attentive, you can't give your full energy and enthusiasm to your family as they would wish you to, but you've also been through a long day of work?
I try to pace myself, to be honest, Andy. I try to not pack my days so that I give my family crumbs. I try to pace myself and invest in myself throughout the day, taking time for myself, try to, get decent rest, taking time and space for that, getting my workout in, like I used to push myself a lot harder. And then I would find that I would be like kind of, headache and mentally checked out at the end of the day. And I'm like, that doesn't feel good. That's not in my best interest to be functioning at that level, because then I don't have patience for my kids. I'm not able to be present with my kids. And I don't like showing up as that parent. So it really is like, this is so much about, when it comes to living more intentionally, what do I want? What does that look like? And perhaps what am I going to have to let go of to have that? Like what's truly important to me and what am I willing to do to keep kind of the main things, the main things?
You know what's super crazy, Julia? As I've been chatting with you over the last 40 minutes, I just realized that I've always been trying to run before I've learned to walk. I'm always maxing myself out. I'm always maxing myself out in all different aspects of my life. And just chatting with you, I just realized I was like, wow, okay, like this is actually not normal.
Yeah. And you can't sprint a marathon, Andy.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to go at a pace that you're going to be able to sustain and hopefully not be slayed at the end of it, right? Like it's conscious, but then actually asking yourself, why do I feel like I need to push so hard? What am I chasing? And what do I think is going to happen when I get there?
It's weird. Like I know healthily I haven't set any limits. I haven't set a goal at a certain time because I know that's unhealthy. But I have this weird fear of knowing that life is short and I want to make the most out of this one life I have. So that's pushing me. Maybe it is me wanting to impress people, but I've sort of gotten to a point where I'm pretty happy with where I'm at and I'm grateful and I don't really care what people think. But at the same time, I'm like constantly like bullying myself. Like I'm constantly, future Andy is bullying past and be like, yo, like you need to push it, you need to keep going, you need sort of,
But why? Why do you need to push so hard?
It's weird. Maybe it's just from past conditioning, maybe. Yeah.
Like, what are you chasing? And, you said this fear of missing out on life, but it's saying that things like rest and connection and pleasure and joy are not part of a meaningful life.
It's crazy. Like I sort of seem like I have these big goals and visions and I've paced it over 100 years, 80 years, next 70 years, and I'm not in a rush to achieve them. And you're right, like why am I rushing. Like if I were to sort of self-analyze myself, okay, like every day I'm getting up, I'm working, because I know if I work and I push myself, it's going to allow me to have a better life. I want to have a better life. I'm pretty happy with where I'm at currently, but I know things can be better as I grow and as I sort of work on myself. So that motivation and drive is trying to push me to be better so I can have a better life. But at the same time, I am pretty grateful for where I'm at already. But I just know things would be better, and I'm craving for that better sort of that next chapter, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm wondering if instead of trying to strive for more, it's time to kind of chunk down to,
Mm.
like you want to go deeper instead of higher.
Interesting. And what do you mean by go deeper?
Well, instead of just looking at, financial success or business success, also looking at like what is truly fulfilling for me, right? What are some things in my life that I'm neglecting? Relationships, connection, quiet, right? My physical health, my mental health. I've had this sole focus of, the epitome of a life well lived is, business or financial success. That's only a part of it. And I'm not having a fulfilling life because I'm only investing in a piece.
Is it possible, like now I'm questioning, like as you brought that up, I was like, okay, socially I feel fulfilled. Independently I feel fulfilled. I'm like, I love traveling on my own. I have a great relationship with my family. I love my parents, even though we have a lot of differences and I'm able to accept the differences. Spiritually, I love talking to just like religious people, and that's a topic like just chatting with you today. This is sort of another thing I really am passionate about, being just spiritually. So I'm fulfilled there. And I'm like, I just have this weird innate drive to just push on all avenues. Physically, I've been learning how to sail. I'm always trying to learn new sort of sports. So I have this weird just drive that's just pushing me to like push myself on all avenues.
Is it possible, Andy, that you're actually doing okay in life right now?
Yes.
Okay. Is it possible that your life is going well as is?
Yes. And I think what one thing I do need to work on is there's like this upward trajectory, but for whatever reason, I keep trying to push things by improving 1% on every aspect of my life every day to change it to an exponential curve. But then the exponential curve it breaks, like you sort of burn out. And for some reason, I need to get comfortable and get very happy with just the normal sort of linear curve.
And what would happen if you took the pressure off?
If I took that pressure off, I'd, there'll be a weight off my shoulders. I'd be able to be even more happy with what I currently have. I would I would be stressing my body out much less, and then I'll be even more calm. Yeah.
Is there any downside to taking that pressure off in your perspective?
The only downside is that potentially, if I had that stress, things maybe would have moved faster and I would have somehow not burnt out and I would have, kept going. And I'm sort of behind the version of Andy that kept that pressure on.
Okay. So your progress might not be as quick if you take some of that pressure off.
Correct.
And why do you need such quick progress?
That's something I don't know why. And I've had a lot of conversations with friends. Like, I don't know why I like having 30 amazing, kind, cool friends in my circle more than having five. I've always wanted more of things. I don't know why. Maybe it came from a lack. I grew with a lack of everything. All
And
these
that's not a
aspects I lack.
problem in and of itself, Andy. There's no problem with having 30 friends versus five friends, but there's something that wants it to be you. There's like, you're like, but this is, I feel stressed and burnt out. So what's not working?
Because I was going to then say, I like 30 more than five, but then I'd like 100 friends more than 30.
Well, and I mean, this can be something really simple that we can look at is like so often, like, let me just ask you, what are some things that you want?
So I want to get to a point where I'm constantly blissful and grateful for everything I have and have that really presentness. Like I always tap in and out of it, and I want to sort of grow to a point where that is a constant. That's one. Two, I really want to sort of build a circle of friends that are sort of my sort of group, my circle. Right now, a lot of my friends that I catch up with one-on-one, they all have their own groups of friends, and I don't really have my own circle yet. And that's something I'm starting to build and figure out. So that's another thing I'd like. And I guess like the third thing is I want to sort of grow to a point where I have everything in control. Like right now, the company does require me. I do need to push it. I don't have enough knowledge and skill. I haven't built a team to a point where I can go on a 6-month holiday and know everything's going to be all right. So those are a few things I sort of want on top of my head.
Okay. How many of those things that you said that you wanted are things that you already have?
I probably have all of them on a much smaller scale.
Okay. But did you notice how at one point, everything you have now is something you wanted,
Yes.
but you forgot to let yourself to continue to want it? You
Yes.
wanted to be able to build your own business, and you
Yes.
have that. You wanted to be able to have some good friends and connections, and you have that. You probably wanted to be able to have your own place and to be able to afford to, live on your own and support yourself. And you have that. And it's so interesting that as soon as we there's so many things that we want, and then we have them and we forget to want them.
Mm.
And we're always on to the next thing that we want instead of allowing ourselves to really truly want what we have. And it doesn't mean we can't still want to grow and expand, but also recognizing how much we already have.
And then are there sort of any exercises to better work on my gratitude for what I currently have, better work on seeing how fortunate I am and using perspective? Like I sort of always hear those terms and I sort of understand and I am grateful for them. I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting that me 5 years ago wished I could be like decently stable and have my own thing. I totally forgot that 5 years ago would wish to have the circle of people I have right now. And I'm always forgetting that 5 years ago would be dreaming to be where I'm at now. But until we had this conversation, this felt so normal. And I totally forgot this is something that I dreamed for.
You are literally living the life of your dreams, and you're forgetting to appreciate it.
How do I work on the appreciation?
If you can't be happy now, Andy, I'm going to tell you, you can't be happy. You can't. Happiness is not a destination. It is a discipline and a decision every single day to say, I want this and I have it. And for me, one of my things is I'll just look around and be like, holy cow, look at my life. In some ways, it is beyond my wildest. Holy cow. And I get overwhelmed almost to the point where I get moved to tears because I'm like, holy cow. And I'm not like spending my weekends on a yacht in the French Riviera. Like my life is not, fancy or anything to be flashy or super impressive on a big scale. But holy cow, everything that I want, that I truly want, I have. And there's ways I want to grow. There's things I want to expand. There's things I want to experience, but not under the delusion that it's going to make me happier, but just because it's fun and it's interesting and it's satisfying to take action, to experiment, to experience, to expand. We're designed for growth and it's satisfying. But everything that I want for my happiness, I have. There's nothing that money could buy or success that could give me that would make me fundamentally happier than I am now. And so it's having that honest conversation. Andy, you have built everything that you set out to do originally beyond probably what you thought you could do. And if you're not happy and satisfied now, you won't ever be. So you continue to grow, you continue to move forward, you continue to expand, not under the delusion that it's going to make you happier or your life significantly better in any ways, but just because it's interesting and it's rewarding and it's enjoyable and it's meaningful to you.
What I'm going to do every morning, thanks to you, Julia, and this conversation, is I'm going to start. I used to write like 5 things I was grateful for every morning, but I stopped doing that. But I think every morning I'm going to wake up and spend 2-3 minutes just really feeling and jumping back to Andy 5 years ago and just realizing how lucky I am. And I'm going to add that to my morning routine. So thank you.
And even just stopping every once in a while, Andy, and looking around you and being like, holy cow, look at this life. Holy cow, like look at this chair sitting in the corner of my own place that I paid for, that I built, that is a result of the dedication and the discipline that I have exercised, the dreams that I have fulfilled, the courage that I have used. Holy cow, look at this. This is incredible. I want this and I have it. Yeah.
You're so right.
Last thing I want to sort of get your thoughts on, Julia. We briefly touched on sort of having amazing people in your life and sort of finding like-minded people and attracting like-minded people. Is this something that you face where a lot of the people I attract, usually they're sort of, they have their own group of friends. The people I attract usually are not the leader, but they have their own group of friends. I know their friends. If they do a birthday party, they invite everyone. I've met their friends. I'm not really close with their friends. That we're cordial, we're cool, we follow each other on Instagram. But I usually hang out with the main guy one-on-one. And my circle is sort of consists of a lot of people who have their own friend groups. And I don't really have my own circle.
Is that truly what you want though, Andy? Or do you prefer more sort of one-on-one deeper friendships?
I like the one-on-one deeper friendships, but I sort of do have a craving for that familial family feeling of having a group of 4 or 5 friends that you're like a family.
And are you willing to do the work to get that and to nurture that and take the time to invest in that? Because those kinds of relationships take a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of availability, which you haven't had.
And then when you said work on it, the thing that sort of clicked to me is that usually if I were to go ahead and go down the route of building a circle, it would usually consist of people who are not really alphas, people who aren't really wanting to have their own groups of people, and it'll be sort of people that I'd have to invest and sort of build up. Is that sort of what came to my mind when you said build?
Yeah.
Ah,
Or people that are interested, other people who want that as well,
yeah.
and
Because
putting the time in for that.
like what you
There's so
said,
many results that we want in life, then we forget that, to get these results, it oftentimes takes time and energy and effort and intention.
Because as you said attract people that are similar to you. So the types of people I attract are usually leaders, and they usually have their own groups of friends. I'm not naturally attracting people who want to follow me, who want to tag along with me, because I don't do that. I don't usually want to tag along with people. I usually sort of go off and do my own thing. But the people who go off and do their own thing, they're not going to want to tag along and hang out with me. So I'm not attracting that circle because that's not me, I guess.
So perhaps, yeah, and perhaps you need to maybe be like, all right, if I want this group of friends, I have to be more willing to tag along.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Julia. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Where can people find more about everything that you do?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. I'm at Julia Counselor. Same with Facebook, at Julia Counselor. Counselor with 2 L's because I'm in Canada, which is the same in Australia, I'm guessing. And YouTube, Julia Counselor, you can just find me there as well. If you type my name into any of those places, I should come up.
I'll link everything below. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. I could really feel that this is something that you are really passionate about, you love, you have this deep level of empathy and care and compassion and kindness. I could feel that through the screen. And this is definitely it's your calling, and you've been able to find what you really love and then sort of really focus on that and sort of help people. So you found your calling. So that just means I know that the people who are working with you, they're working with someone that really loves what they do, and I can feel that.
I feel so grateful every single day to do this work, to love it so much. I get paid for it. It just feels almost surreal. So thank you for having me here and having this conversation and being willing to be vulnerable yourself, Andy.
Thank you so much, Julia. So yeah, this is another episode of the podcast. If you guys made it this far, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Please leave a review on Apple and Spotify. I've been reading all the reviews. I want to get your feedback. I want to see what I can improve on, what I can work on. And if you love it, I would love to hear that you love it. But yeah, that's another episode of the podcast, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.